Hello, everybody. My name is Raymond Peng, and you are joining me today for a webinar about the skill sets in the emerging world of AI. I hope you'll enjoy this session. And before we get started, just a quick programming note, we are recording this session. The recording will go on YouTube afterwards, so you'll be able to see the replay if you weren't able to attend today. And there will be several different links that I will share throughout the session, and we will also post those as well. So feel free to sit back, relax, enjoy, and hear all the content, and hope you find this interesting. So let's get started. Maybe a quick introduction about me. My name is Raymond Peng. I work at Google Cloud, and I am in AI strategy and solutions at Google, which means I work with a lot of enterprise companies as well as startups on their AI strategy and their AI initiatives. Um, I started actually, because there's a lot of high school students here. I started my career in the internet when as a high schooler, actually, I learned HTML and web development and JavaScript back in the day. So NetScript was my browser of choice. If anyone remembers that, that was essentially the ChatGPT of the internet at that time. I went to Boston University. I majored in computer science. I got a degree, a master's and MBA at the Emory Guizetta Business School. And then I moved to Atlanta with my wife, and we had a daughter, Emory, who is 14. She's in high school as well, now a freshman. And so I'm surrounded by my beautiful family and two lovely dogs, which you see on the top left-hand corner. The white one is called Coconut, Coco for short, and then the beige brown one is Penny. Beautiful, great dogs. So if there's any dog lovers out there, you've got a fan over here as well. So let's get started. So today I'm going to talk about three things, and then we'll have some time for a Q&A as well. I would love to hear your questions. First of all, what is AI? How is AI changing the world? What are the skill sets and careers in AI as you're starting to think about all of that in your high school career, going to college? And we'll close with some questions, and I have one thing for you left as we end. So let's start with what is AI? I think it's kind of important before we talk about skill sets. You've heard about it as a once in a lifetime technology. I think it's also a once in a lifetime opportunity as well. So let's talk about AI. Most of you probably have experienced AI in some way already, whether you're watching Netflix, if it's showing you shows that you like or things that you've used before, shows that you've watched before and recommendations. That's all AI. That's basically taking everything that you watch and what others have watched, and then essentially giving you a predictive suggestion. You see a lot of that on Amazon today, based on things that you buy, your shopping patterns, others who bought similar things. I mean, those are all essentially examples of AI today. If you have any kind of like a Google Home Hub or anything like that, which we do at home, it'll see you and it'll recognize it's me. And you can use hand gestures to stop or play the video on that Google Home Hub. So AI is using a combination of body motion and facial recognition to understand who's actually interacting with it. And of course, AI understands speech. So if you're using Alexa or Google Assistant or anything at your home, that's essentially basically taking human speech and turning it into something that AI can understand. So, if those are all examples of AI, what is actually happening? The technology at the very most basic level is essentially it's data, which is lots of data, with a model, which is what a lot of times you hear in the world about AI, which is these models, which is essentially a very large, complex mathematical algorithm, and compute, which are essentially lots and lots of um, chips, servers, memory, large computing machines that are essentially cranking through data with them and building this algorithm based on that data. So that's essentially those three things of what AI is. A little bit of history is sort of like why is AI different? What's happening? Well, in the 1960s, there was the beginning of traditional programming, maybe in the 1970s. But let's take an example of a cat. You say, well, what is a cat? How does a computer understand of a cat? Well, I might program, say, cat is an animal. It's got four legs. It's 2 ears. It has fur equals yes. It likes yarn and catnip, etc. That is essentially traditionally programming to tell a computer program what a cat is. But now, if you've heard of machine learning or ML, which started in 2012, ML is essentially a process of basically showing the computer many, 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 many instances of cats. Here's a picture of a cat. Here's another picture of a cat. Here's another picture of a cat, etc. And then finally, I show you a picture of a different cat, and it says, "Yeah, that's a cat too," because it has seen all sorts of varieties of cats. So it's able to essentially, like that facial recognition or any kind of textual recognition, is basically pattern matching. Generative AI is different, where this is the explosion of generative AI, which is we essentially gave a huge amount of information. Like the pile of books is an understatement. It's a vast amount of information, anything on the internet, and we fed it. And then we ask it, "Hey, do you know what a cat is?" And it's basically taking all that information and it's giving us back something about anything that it understands about a cat. So it can be a lot more rich, right? And it's generating essentially almost new things and insights based on everything it's learned together, because essentially it's able to compile all that. And so a lot of you have experienced this. If you use Snapchat, they have in My AI, which is probably one of the first things that people have experienced if you're younger. Like my daughter, she's told me that she uses Snapchat and My AI. She's familiar. Or ChatGPT. I asked ChatGPT to generate a picture of my dog by the fire, and there it is. Voila. Generative AI can actually do more than just tell you what something is. It can actually generate new things, and then also it can also understand imagery by figuring out more than just a basic image. So I use Gemini, for example. I took a picture of the plant next to my office and said, "Here's what a plant is," right? So all sorts of different, essentially chatbots is what most people are using AI for today. But a little bit more about like the differences of ML, traditional ML versus generative AI. Like, we all love pizza. I love pizza a lot. If I say, "Give me the best pizza in New York," and I use Google Maps to do it, traditional would say, "Well, look, I know pizza is a type of food. New York is the location. Best means top rated." So now I'm basically taking these filters and I'm showing you those relevant results. That's more traditional, right? It's taking my words, it's mapping them against certain rules and results, and it's giving me those exact matches. But it's fairly limited, because what if I said, "Well, I just want to find like a vintage vibe place," and I'm in San Francisco, which is the example on the right. Well, like that's not really a category that exists. There's nothing that is, vintage or vibe in any particular type of, store thing. And so what generative AI does is essentially it understands the context of what I mean, and it's able to find things based on understanding the context of those things. So in this example, it's pulled up essentially a vinyl record store and says, like, "This place has got some vintage feel. It's in San Francisco near you, and I think you'd like the vibe," right? And so that's essentially kind of the difference. It's becoming a lot more fuzzy, and it's using kind of the way humans would understand things to be able to give patterns and suggestions to it or respond back. So we all think, at least in our industry in tech, that generative AI is the game changer. And it's certainly the case, as we see in talking to numerous companies out there that are just really crazy or urgent about taking advantage of AI. So what is exactly game changing? What is really the difference? And I'll sum it up to three things about generative. I'll give you some examples. The first one is really this idea of chain of thought reasoning. So just like human beings, if I asked you a question like, "I want you to plan a party," I'm going to go through and I'm going to think through all the things that I need to figure out about the party. Is it, who am I inviting? What kind of party is it for? How many people? Is there going to be food? Is there going to be some sort of entertainment? Etc. The other part, and that's chain of thought. So what's happening is generative AI is going through that thought process and essentially itemizing all the things it has to do. The second thing that makes generative AI so special is we can specialize in it, right? It knows a lot of information. Think of it as like a very smart PhD student that knows a lot about things. But because it knows a lot of things, we don't actually give it any particular specialization. So sometimes it can actually crisscross things, right? Because human, world and language and everything can be very, there could be a lot of overlaps and misinterpretations. So specialized agent for this case, I might say, well, you are not just a planning party, a party planner. You are a specialist wedding planner, right? So weddings are very extravagant. There's a big budget production. There's a lot of different things you have to think through. So a specialized agent has a very specific specialty and task that they can do. And then the last part is essentially what we call text to action. So what you're doing is you're not just conversing, like in the chatbot examples, we're going back and forth and talking, but we're actually going to do something in the real world in some way. So for example, I planned the party. Now I want you to go order these things. I want you to go through Amazon, order these supplies. I want you to book the place. I want to call this place, and I want to be able to converse and book a particular schedule in that venue's appointment. Or I want you to send an email to all my friends to invite them to the party. So it's actually not just, interacting with me, but it's actually interacting with other systems and making those actions come to, essentially taking those actions as a follow-up action. Right. So these three things are really important. Essentially, that's what's making generative AI so powerful. And you're going to see this becoming essentially multiplied in terms of the ways that it can interact. So, for example, specialized agents can do all these things and work with other specialized agents that can go through and work with larger and larger, more complex projects because their chain of thought reasoning is going to get better and better. And then they're going to have more interconnections to different applications and they can take that into action. So let me give you an example. So some people think, well, that's so easy. I'm just going to talk to Gemini or ChatGPT. It's going to do it all. Well, the reason why there's so much possibility, it also creates a lot of complexity where skills are involved. So humans are really needed. We are building essentially all of this advanced AI. It still requires programming today. And so I'll give you an example. Let's say Mary, she wants to plan a party for her high school graduation, and we're going to build an app for Mary, right? And so what's going to happen is I'm going to use Gemini and I'm going to do some programmatic prompts, and I'm going to say, well, make sure you ask Mary all these questions: time, budget, venue, theme, food, etc. That's step two. And then what's going to happen behind the scenes is I'm going to tell Gemini and I'm going to create some programmatic aspects and say, generate this type of JSON format, like a code, a computer formatted uh, data code that I can then say, well, I'm going to take that and I want you to generate on programming again. I want you to generate a logo for Mary's party. I want you to go out to Canva and I want you to grab these invite templates. And then I'm going to have Mary pick one of them. I'm going to take all that code and the information I got from Mary, and I'm going to program and populate it into the Canva via using these APIs, which is called Application Programming Interface. And that's going to allow Mary to essentially to download and to send this invite. And then I want you to take that same piece of content and I want you to generate an Amazon wish list in the format that Amazon wants it. And I'm going to program that so that I can call Amazon's APIs. And I'm going to create that wish list for Mary so that when she goes to her Amazon account, she's got the wish list there, which is in step 8. So all that happened not because AI just did all of that, right? AI can do a good amount of that, but I still have to instruct it. I still have to provide some guidance here in terms of how I want to stitch together this experience for Mary in the mobile app that's powered by AI. So hopefully that gives you an idea of sort of all the sort of connectedness of what AI is doing. So that was a simple example, but how is AI changing the world, right? It is really in a lot of things these days. So I'm going to give you guys a couple examples. First of all, I think I want to underscore that AI is definitely the most transformative technology since the internet. And those of us who have been in this field for a long time, we see that buzz, we see the possibilities. And I think it's going to really change a lot of things in our lives. And I'll show you a couple of examples based on that. The first one, just a little lightheartedness, is I want to introduce Ryan Reynolds, who is also kind of a pioneer, I guess, in AI with his ad. So I'm going to let Ryan Reynolds talk about it.
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds, owner of Mint Mobile. We're always looking for ways to save you money. So this year, we're kicking things off with an ad that I created using Chat GPT, the AI technology. This is what I asked it to write. I said, write a commercial for Mint Mobile in the voice of Ryan Reynolds. Use a joke, a curse word, and let people know that Mint's holiday promo is still going, even after the big wireless companies have ended theirs. This is what it wrote. Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here. Eerie. First of all, let me just say Mint Mobile is the shit. But here's the thing. All the big wireless companies out there are ending their holiday promos, but not Mint Mobile. We're keeping the party going because we're just that damn good. Give Mint Mobile a try. And hey, as an added bonus, if you sign up now, you'll get to hear my voice every time you call customer service. Just kidding, that's not really a thing. And stay classy, everyone. That is mildly terrifying, but compelling.
So if any of you have seen that commercial before, I thought it was just a great example of, how everybody is actually able to do something creative with AI. And that's essentially what we're kind of seeing out in the world of marketing as well.
Hey, it's Ryan.
So an example for marketing, just like what Ryan Reynolds is doing, is he's essentially creating content. And so what marketers are doing these days is they're taking something like a product catalog, like what we have here with pancakes, and I'm essentially using AI to generate um, t- many, many different permutations of pancakes in multiple languages, in different form factors. I can have it say the one I want to put for a mobile phone for Instagram, or something I want to post on Twitter, and all I had to do was essentially load up some information about the pancake and my product, some imagery about the product, maybe some guidance on, is it a holiday setting? Is it a particular season that I want to push at a particular languages? And then give it some of that information. And then essentially it starts generating all of this content. And so what Ryan did with just one script, I can now do it with hundreds and hundreds of scripts in different languages, so that's becoming just the scale at which you can do it and the speed of which is incredible. The other thing it can do is our companies are using AI to really change the way we're interacting with customer service. Nobody really likes to be on hold. Nobody likes to go call the customer service. Usually something's wrong. So here's the future of how we're starting to build tools for companies, and how that they're using those tools to help their customer service staff work with their customers as they call them.
Hi, Prisha. Thanks for calling our phone company. How can I help?
I'd like to make a payment.
Great. Can you please verify your address?
15 State Street. Oh, and how much is it?
Virtual Agent provides immediate, conversational support with customers directing the flow.
Your balance is $60. Do you want to pay with the account ending in 1337?
Yes, please.
Done. I've sent an email confirmation. Is there anything else?
Virtual Agent can take care of basic fulfillment on the spot.
Yes, actually, there's a $18 charge I don't recognize.
From last week? It looks like you exceeded your data limit.
Oh, that's not fair. I wasn't told.
Okay, let me transfer you to a specialist to help.
More complex cases are seamlessly handed off to a human agent.
Hi, Prisha. I'm Elliot. I see you're concerned about an extra data cost.
Yeah, I didn't know I went over and would have to pay.
Okay, I can waive the charges this time, but would you like to upgrade to unlimited data for just $5 more so it doesn't happen again?
Agent Assist listens in, giving real-time, step-by-step guidance.
Yes, please.
Okay, I've updated your plan. Is there anything else?
No, this was great. Thanks a lot.
Lastly, Insights gives you real-time visibility into key call drivers and sentiment.
So there's a lot going on in that video, but the first thing that happened was Prisha talked to an AI virtual agent, essentially, that kind of handled the most basic calls. And then when the AI couldn't do anything more, AI ended up kind of going behind the scenes and helping the actual customer service rep, right? Pulling information, grabbing things that he didn't have access to. And then finally, at the end, if you work in customer service, you have to take a lot of notes. You have to summarize everything that happened. And there's people that are measuring these things and wondering how the call went and who's being productive. And so AI is assisting with all of those things, right? So a lot of those things that like a lot of people found sort of tiresome, wearisome, or just like, really boring part of customer service now can be handled with AI. And that's essentially kind of what's happening in healthcare as well. So if you've all visited the doctor or seen a nurse, you realize, and you probably don't notice, but they're spending a ton of time documenting things, right? They have to understand what's happening, where have you been, what were your last, previous lab results, and when did you come see us last? And there's essentially a lot of reading. They said that the burnout cost in the US healthcare system is about $4.6 billion. And that's representative turnover and just reduced productivity, right? And nurses, 57% of nurses feeling exhausted. And 43% of them consider leaving the hospital where they work because it's just too much. And so, what AI is doing is it's essentially helping summarize clinical notes and helping nurses and doctors process patient data a lot better. So, in this example, what's going on is, Juan's coming in, and Kelly, who's the nurse, is able to bring up Juan's information. AI is essentially helping summarize all of that information that's in their healthcare system. And also she's asking to like give her the information in more of a chronological order because that's how we kind of want to understand these things. And then what happens is she gets a big dump of everything. And so she said, well, can you summarize it and simplify it for me? So because Juan's about to come in, I really don't have a lot of time. I need to basically get the salient points. And then in addition to that, she's asking for more information, like what kind of medications Juan, because that's really important. So this is where AI is actually being a real powerful and helpful assistant to humans and essentially helping us improve care. Now, on the flip side, we all spend a lot of time with eating great food or going to drive-throughs because we don't have a ton of time. And at Google, we've been working with Wendy's on their drive-through experience. It started in last year of 2023. They now have 36 stores that are using essentially AI to facilitate the drive-through experience, and they're about to actually add Spanish to it. There's some links that we'll share as part of the YouTube video recording. But essentially, Wendy's thinks of Fresh AI not as like a replacement of their staff, but as an assistant. Because sometimes you're busy, right? You got to get the food fresh. You want to put it out there, but you don't have time to take orders of this long line of people who are coming. And so that's what AI is helping do. So let's take a look at a very simple experience of somebody who posted it on Instagram of her Wendy's experience.
Welcome to Wendy's. What would you like?
Can I have a chocolate frosty?
Which size for the chocolate frosty?
Medium.
Can I get you anything else today?
No, thank you.
Great. Please pull up to the next window.
All right, really simple example. But if you think about it, there's hundreds of different things that you could order from Wendy's. There's tons of different variations you could ask for. And there's lots of different things about, if you're asking for a shake, is that a frosty? And so AI has to understand that. And that's what generative AI is so good as. It's able to make connections to words and things that normally we would understand, but computers have struggled with. And so that's why this drive-through experience is such a good fit for AI because, it helps kind of take that kind of burden of having to deal with that and put it and have AI be able to provide more of that kind of front door experience as you do the drive-through. And we're seeing this in other ways in retail. If you guys ever shop furniture, for example, Wayfair is a online retail store that sells some great furniture online. And my daughter, she loves to design her room. She wants to paint her room every year. She wants to change the color and redesign it, which is quite a lot. But Wayfair is a good way for you to go and design your choice, and that's what AI is doing. Essentially, is using AI to create different creative visuals for you of your room. So let's take a quick look at what Wayfair is doing.
One thing that we've been experimenting with that's available to customers now is Decorify, which is a shoppable AI interior design agent. So you can upload a picture of a room and see that room redesigned with various different styles, and then shop the products that are shown in those pictures. On the supplier side, we use AI to make sure that it's very easy for suppliers to do business with us. We want to make it easy for them to add products to the catalog, to see how those products are performing, to learn and iterate as they try new things.
And there's just so much more that they're going to do with AI. So watch out for Wayfair, and you'll see more with Walmart and IKEA. Just so many Etsy, so many companies using AI in retail. Another example, I think, for more of an educational standpoint, is what Quill is doing. And if you think about elementary ed, and writing is so important, Quill is using AI to have so much more reach. I think we talk about AI as helping you with creativity, but how AI is really creating personalized teaching to students who don't really get that access today. So let's hear a little bit from Quill.
Good morning, everyone. So today we are going to be working on conjunctions. Before we begin, let's just orient ourselves with the computers. Can everybody find the shift button? Thumbs up if you can find it.
We're a community school. We educate everybody that comes through our doors.
Morning, guys. Good morning, good morning, good morning.
It's our job to make sure that their reading and their writing are on grade level.
Writing is very important in all subjects. If you're a strong writer, you will have a better chance in society.
When it comes to writing, a lot of students are discouraged because sometimes they don't know what to write or how to form complete sentences.
Immediate feedback is critical in how a child learns.
It's almost impossible when you're one teacher in a class of up to 32 students.
If I were to describe Quill's AI in one word, it's feedback. With AI, we can provide a personal tutor to every student, saving teachers hundreds of hours per year, and we can do this at scale.
What I liked about Quill was the fact that now they'll get that feedback within seconds. It's also telling me who's struggling. I can address those issues faster, and then I can move on to a next group.
Amazing, right? So last year alone, Quill was able to give feedback on 450 million sentences written by students. And that was the equivalent of 3.6 million hours of teachers' time to provide feedback. And when we think about, that kind of impact and how many students are a little bit better from being able to get that coaching, it's amazing to see that what AI can do. And it's not just something that can be done in the US, it can be done everywhere in any language, right? So think about the scale of education and personalization that can be done now with AI. I think it's really going to be one of those big humanitarian benefits. And speaking of that, one of the things around renewable energy is, if you ever kind of drive across countries, these wind farms. And AI is actually not just helping with people, but we're putting AI in drones. And so what it's doing is, as drones are flying around, it's actually able to look at these big wind farms and see, hey, is something damaged? And normally we'd have to send technicians, they'd have to climb, really high, poles to find what the damage is. It can be quite dangerous. And so when we combine like drone technology with AI to do vision, we're able to do a lot more inspection that humans would never be able to do, or it would be just very hazardous for them to do that. And so it's not only improving our use of renewable energy and lowering our costs, but it's also kind of providing that hazardous work environment and reducing injury. So it's got a lot of applicability in all sorts of manufacturing and energy capacities. And speaking of energy, in Google, we have a part of our Google research called DeepMind. And essentially what DeepMind is it's a next generation research focused arm of Google that is really just focused on how do we leverage AI and advance the technology for human good. And one of the things it's doing is, figuring out how to, for example, find ways to eliminate plastic. And it's using AI to essentially find proteins, which are all these building blocks of creating anything in our universe, in our world, and figuring out ways how to use proteins to essentially eat plastic. 91% of the plastic in our world is not recycled. It ends up in these big landfills like what you just saw. And so Google DeepMind is using AI to do that. And it's not just using AI for that, it's using that protein technology to be able to identify the next drug, whether it was for fighting malaria or Parkinson's or Alzheimer's. It's essentially partnering up with research companies and pharmaceutical companies to be able to leverage that and advance and provide better breakthroughs in science that we've never before imagined. And so, for all of you who are students out there and going into college, um, when the internet started, all of these companies came about: Google, Facebook, Amazon, Uber, Netflix. They all were really created as a result of the internet and then also smartphones. And smartphones and the internet kind of like come together, are part of our daily lives, right? And that's the generation of tech billionaires that you probably know of today, right? And so 1 in 7 billionaires are tech billionaires, actually. And so if you look at all of these logos on the left, some of them you probably know, and then you look at all the logos on the right that are really AI, and there's not a lot of really big players right now, right? It's just ChatGPT, Gemini, and then the classic, Google, Amazon, Nvidia that we all hear about. But there's not a ton of them here, and this is the opportunity for those who are entrepreneurial, who want to see what their career could be in technology and AI. There is a huge amount of white space here to be the next tech generation of tech billionaires. So, what is the kind of skill sets that you need? Let's talk about that. What's the future of the job market? A lot of people are kind of wondering, oh, is AI going to eliminate jobs? Are we going to, have to retrain ourselves? And so, let me give you my perspective on these things. First of all, just from a practical perspective, I think regardless of what you're doing with AI, I think it's really important to understand what AI can do and where their limitations are. So, some of the strengths are fairly obvious. It's great at research, summarizing, generating ideas, all the things that you saw, even some personal coaching and coding that we saw. Where it has limitations is AI is not perfect. There are hallucinations because it's bringing together a lot of data and it's generating based on what it probably thinks is right, but you do need to fact check. And we're improving those every day, but hallucinations still exist. Also, a lot of companies will create different AI applications, and you have to be careful what company you're feeding your data into, right? Do you trust that company? Do you know what it's going to do with your information? And then also from a school or company policy perspective, there's still sort of an understanding that different parts of AI can be like cheating, right? And so I think it's important that you make sure that you understand where there might be violations. It's not that AI is bad, right? I think in certain math tests, you're not allowed to use a calculator because the teacher wants you to work through that logic yourself. And even though we have access to calculators and technology, you're not supposed to use it for the purpose that you want to show your logic. And so those policies are there for a good reason. So be aware of them. The other part, which is I think also really dangerous for our young society, for anyone, is that it could stunt your learning, right? If you just copy and paste, your answer that you got from ChatGPT or Gemini, you didn't really learn it, right? So or you didn't read it. So learn it first, right? Use AI for some of the more repetitive tasks. Then you do it for the tasks that you've never done before, the first of its kind. So watch out for AI stunting your learning and be careful about that. And just remember, it's a probabilistic model. It's guessing, and it's based on the context that you tell it, right? So those are the limitations and strengths of AI at a broad level. So there are two ways that AI will impact you. And you can kind of think about it simply as: one, you could be using AI, or two, you could be building AI. So let's go through both of them. If you're using AI, the first step, I think the most basic thing to do, is to learn prompt design. And what is prompt design? It's essentially information that you're feeding into a ChatGPT or a Gemini. I kind of think of it as like C3PO in Star Wars. If you ask C3PO a question, he will definitely give you an answer back. But sometimes it's a little too much and you didn't want to know all that detail. And so being able to guide C3PO on what you want is important. And it's kind of an art and a science, right? And it's what you build into it and what you feed it that helps you with the behavior that you want. So, what does a badly crafted AI prompt look like? A prompt is what I put in. Here's a couple of bad ones, right? And the problem with all of them is most of it is because I haven't really, or I wasn't very specific. I want a catchy phrase, catchy caption for a paper. Well, what was my paper about? I want ideas for a science project. Are we talking about a PhD college level science project or a high school or an elementary school science project? I'm going on, I want to post from my vacation. Who am I sending this to? So the context, the audience, all that really matters. And so four things that you should know, just kind of like a basics of a good prompt, right? Number one is persona, which is tell AI to act as something, right? Act as a travel guide, act as a specialist in, this particular area. The task, what is it that you want them to do step by step? Give them instructions. Context, information, details about the purpose of the task, and then the format. What do you want the output to look like? If you can phrase your prompts in these four areas and stay consistent with that, you're going to get a lot more out of your prompts. And I'm going to add four more for you that I think I found really, really powerful. And I want to give credit to Sabrina here who wrote it. And I call them 4 prompt power up tips. So number one, is ask clarifying questions until you are 95% confident you can complete the task successfully. I think that's a great way to add that into your prompt. You can tell Gemini or ChatGPT, use chain of thought and take it step by step, right? So then AI will then continue to go and think through those things. And then 3, remember to search the internet for the most up-to-date information. And 4, format the output in an easy-to-read table. You'll be surprised at how amazing the output looks like just by saying some of those things. And so try those things. It's an easy way to copy and paste this. And even today, I just copied some of this into my prompt just to make it a little bit better. So a lot of you are probably wondering, well, what am I going to study in college? What kind of careers are there? Is everything going to change? What do I need to know? Because that's why I came to this webinar. Well, first of all, I took some of those and I put it in a prompt. And so this way, hopefully it gives you an idea of how I would use Gemini to structure my prompts in these 4 things: persona, context, task, and format. And so I put in Gemini, I got some information, but I want to give you a little more of a download. If you're thinking about colleges and jobs in AI, I mean, first of all, you're in an amazing time, all right, because AI has just started. So there's a couple things that, from a major's perspective, you're interested in the world of AI, computer science, data science, cognitive science, and mathematics and statistics. Those are great topics for you to look into, major in. I think you will, be deep in the world of AI if you choose any of these majors. The other ones that you could major or minor in, I mean, I majored in computer science and I had a minor in business in my undergrad, is you could certainly minor in business, communications, or economics, because all 3 of these things are really sort of the way the world works, the way our economy works, the way money and our government. All these things are incredibly important kind of skill sets that you need to learn. And so it's not just about the technology, but it's about society and business. And if you major or minor or double major in any of these, I think you will get a lot of understanding here. Now, when it comes to roles that you can, whether it's an internship or it's a post-college career first job, these are some things that you could probably search on. Data engineers, data scientists, these are all roles, technical roles in AI. Software developers, data analytics, cybersecurity, AI researcher, these are all technical roles. But there's also, if you're not a technical person, And there's also a lot of non-technical roles. And in my job today, I'm in a non-technical role, which is just as important as a technical role because we have to work together and speak to different types of problems and solve different types of challenges. So AI is not something that's built by just one person. Project management, sales, product management, product marketing, design, and business process design. These are all like great both creative people, leadership roles, human teamwork based roles that are just really important. And they will not go away because AI is going to be complicated. We will need a lot of different people to work together to build these complex systems and to maintain them and come up with new ideas. And so those will be there. And if you are interested in law or political science or maybe on the people side, AI is going to create a lot of questions. And we're going to need, the world always seems to need more lawyers. Patents and copyright, intellectual property rights. I mean, there's going to be a lot of that in the years to come. There's also going to be a lot of political science and government policy related to AI. And within companies, there's going to be a lot of HR policies around AI. And then also just from a general world and um, uh, corporate consulting perspective, there's just so many different problems today, so many manual effort, paper-based things, um, tasks that are being performed that AI is going to be able to do. And have being a consultant, a business consultant or a management consultant is also an opportunity to do AI in your future career as well. So watch out. Hopefully that helps you give a pretty good understanding of the world of opportunities there. And there's probably even more that I've missed, but these are the top ones that came to mind. So if you're another way you can use AI today, if you are researching something or doing something, I want to show you a quick demo here. Let me share my screen. So, my daughter, she has this like huge chapter on Russia, and I was like, there's like 28 pages of very dense document that she had to read. And sometimes after you read it, you're like, well, did I remember everything? What's the recap? So I want to share something that might be useful. So I took this document and I put it into a tool that we have called um, Notebook LM. And so Notebook LM is a tool made by Google. Started out as a 20% project by one engineer. And essentially, what it allows you to do is it allows you to take this document. I took this Russia chapter and I put it in here. And Notebook did a couple of things. One, it created an FAQ, things I need to know, a little brief about all the major themes so I could kind of skim it. And it gave me a little quiz on it so I could quiz myself. But I think the best and most interesting feature is it actually also created a little podcast out of it as well. I want to play a little bit of this podcast.
Ray, I don't think that you shared audio for this one.
Oh, maybe I didn't share the audio. So the podcast is great. It's two people, and it sounds so real, but it is AI generated. So if you ever get a chance, and I think it's one of those really amazing technologies in terms of magic, in terms of how they did it. I think you'll love it. Check out Notebook LM. I think you can literally put anything, a website, PDFs. A YouTube video, and it will summarize things for you in an incredible way. I think it's a great way to do research, especially if you have a lot of documents. Summarize all of your papers that you got. Some people use it as a morale booster. They put their resume in there and have the podcaster talk about them. Um, so we all need that sometimes as a little bit of morale boost. So using AI, embrace it now. Use it for research, creating presentations, coaching advice, homework help, brainstorming ideas, social advice. I think these are all great uses. Use it responsibly. Leverage these. these tools that I think here they're all great tools for you to use. So I want to cover building AI. And if you're thinking about a career in building AI as an engineer, AI talent is really scarce. There's probably about 150 to 300,000 AI engineers in the market. That's like most recent count, compared to 20 million programmers. I mean, there's just, that it's scarce. And there are most of the talents centered around large tech hubs and tech universities. So if you plan to go to one of those big, large tech hubs or tech universities, you are, in a good place. If you are going to learn AI in some way, if you look at basically the top programming languages in the world, I would say focus your time on JavaScript, Java, and Python. And if you had to just learn one, I would learn Python, because it's not just about learning something in school or college. You really just like back in the day when the internet was started. It's really about practical experience. I did a lot of work building websites for my school club, and then I got paid for it as a side job throughout college. That gave me a lot of practical experience, and it's even more valuable than a degree. And if you're asking, recruiters from different companies, including Google, they will ask you about what have you built? Can you show me or talk about the design of an app that you built with AI? What did you learn from it? What kind of challenges did you face? How did you overcome them? Building it, getting your hands dirty makes a difference. And a good way to learn it, two different courses out there that are totally free. One is from Google. It's called Skills Boost on the left here. And then the other is from Deep Learning AI. And I think they're both just great courses that are free, and they walk you through step by step with some practices as well. So learn by doing, take that course, find a practical problem, make a chatbot for your school club or for your parents' business, or, somebody, a relative or something, like blow them away, right? With something that they didn't expect. And it's really cheap right now to use it. So on cloud, which is like on Google Cloud, which is what you're going to use to call Gemini, you pay for what you use. You could literally start something and it will cost you $10 to maybe $50 a month or even less. Most of the time is your effort putting into it. That's the most valuable asset. And think about the problem that you're solving for. Think about who your end user and what kind of questions and needs that they have. That's how you build an amazing product, and that's how you'll learn. And there is a great tool that you can use called AI Studio. So Google's AI Studio, the URL is here. There are a lot of different, like how to build it with AI. I found one that I thought was kind of like a good overall, building a chatbot with Python and Gemini at the same time on Google AI Studio. So try this one. I think that's a good video of all the ones that are out there. But there's just tons out there for you to be able to try. So with that, I think it's just still important that no matter what your technical abilities are, or maybe non-technical, the universal skill sets are just so important. You use that every day. Conversation, interpersonal skills, your ability to present, to collaborate with people, to understand the situation. And even when you're prompting, you're essentially defining the problem, right? Framing the problem the right way and telling them what you want out of it. And so thinking strategically is incredibly important. AI is still not going to build a business for you, right? You have to think through those steps, and you have to make those decisions and work with people to bring them to your team and have them work with you, right? And so your curiosity, trying to understand how things work and leading others and demonstrating your skill sets, that's your leadership. That will make a difference. So universal skill sets, I would emphasize those all day long. Technical skills you can learn. These things also need to be honed and learned as well. So with that, let's go to the Q&A and see if there are any questions. Let's bring this up. All right, let's see what we have here. I'm going to kind of start with the first one. Okay, first question is from Brooklyn. She says, how will AI affect teaching jobs in the future? I think teaching jobs are, there's not enough teachers, first of all. And I think, like that quill example, we're going to see teachers be a lot more assisted by AI than ever before. So that means teachers will have better insights. They'll be able to have different AI tools like Quill. They'll also be able to have better insights into kind of the patterns and trends of their students, because you might be able to give a grade, but how's the teacher kind of looking at the student over the course of the year? Or from a school standpoint, how's this student progressing over the course of the multiple years? And look at like the writing of things and how those are progressing. So I think we have a lot of ability to actually improve education with AI that teachers just aren't able to have the time today to get to. Let me take. So I'm gonna say we've got that one. Let's see. How long does it generally take to create generative AI? It's a question from Reese. Great question. Well, it depends on a couple of things, but I think most people, if you just create a simple chatbot and produce it, you could probably get it done within a day. If you have basic skills to be able to do something locally on your computer, which is essentially use the AI studio like I showed you. Use a chatbot. You're calling Gemini. Gemini is really doing most of the heavy duty work. And then you're building the front end of the web application that is the typing in the box. I mean, you could do that in like an hour or less. There are videos that says they'll do it in like 5 minutes. I think you need a certain amount of skill to do it really fast, but once you start doing it, it'll be a lot easier. In the corporate world, we are building larger scale applications in probably 1 to 3 months, sometimes shorter. And if it's really complex, maybe within half a year or a year if it's something very, very complex, right? But you're seeing the kind of like the development timeframes shorten dramatically in generative AI. All right, let's take another question. Sam asks, as a student interested in business, what are some ways I can integrate AI into business? Oh man, there are so many things. I think one, if you're interested in business, um, well, I think AIs can first. There's two ways. One is it's helping you with a business idea, or second is your business is creating something with AI. Let's just say it's about building a business idea. You can use AI to help you with brainstorming. I think you can help use AI to create logos and marketing brochures and different types of text. You can use AI to generate social media for you, so you can push those things out. I mean, I think that's just scratching the surface. The other thing is, you can use sort of like more and more of these workspace types of tools. There's a lot of marketing software out there that basically automates a lot of things with the help of AI. But if you're just interested in in building an AI generated business, I think it's like looking for problems, looking for opportunities where you can use those things I showed you around how you can create and automate things to essentially create a product that people will use. Let's take this next one. Okay. How does Google plan to take these subjects beyond just chatbots, health and safety? I think I showed you a whole bunch of examples and there's more. So I think we'll mark that one as done. Okay. This one's great. James Ellis says, also, what are the plans to deal with bias in AI? I mean, this is probably a long-term fight. I don't think there's really any time that we'll say we've solved that problem. I don't think there is a solve. I think the best way we can do in terms of solving bias is around creating more data sets and being more inclusive, having more people get involved. So for example, when you're using AI today, you have an ability to thumbs up and thumbs down. That's an incredibly important sort of feedback. They call it human reinforcement feedback loop. And so what's happening is essentially every time you're giving that feedback and you're putting something in, it's training and changing the model. And I think as the world changes as well, more and more people become digital on the internet, more people are pushing things out. It's helping create more of a uniformity, right? The internet's only so old, and the type of content that we have digital is probably most of it's created in the last 10 years. So, longer term wise, I think we will have more content that will probably smooth out, hopefully, have a wider sample size than the sample that we have today. And we'll have more tools. And we are also using AI itself to help us find and fight biases where things might be wrong. Because certainly, from a human being perspective, we don't have the manpower or the time to be able to cover all of those things ourselves. So it's going to be a long term thing, but with a combination of better data, more training, better technology, and using AI to actually find, um, fraud or deep fakes, for example. I mean, or types of biases, we can actually use that for good. All right, I've got a nice long question here from Daniela. Um, Generative AI programs have been known to make things up when they do not have reliable information. What are the protocols or techniques that people have implemented to lessen these problems? How has Google in particular worked to reduce these hallucinations and make AI responses more representative of the real world? All right. So I think that's very similar to the last question. So we've actually introduced more things around grounding with Google search. So, if you as you type in things into Gemini, we are also searching the internet using Google search to find and ground those responses. And I think citing sources is incredibly important. Um, in addition to that, I think we spend a lot of time, we call it red teaming. We have a lot of internal processes to review and have protocols in place to look and assess. And there are also, like I said before, programs where you could say you could look for biases. We actually have an API out there that looks at flags any kind of response that is essentially content moderation, and those things can be used to find, let's say, harmful content, bias, or different types of restricted content that we want to be able to bring up to our attention so that we can understand what's happening. And so, with a combination of kind of human ingenuity, the kind of personal testing with people, as well as using AI to help us, I think that's essentially what we're going to do to be able to create a better and more useful AI and helpful AI for everybody. But it is, like I said last time, a long term thing. Great question. And I think we'll take one more question and then we'll come to an end. Um, okay, let's look at this one from Michelle. The last decade has been amazing for computer scientists and software engineers, and I've been told that experienced and highly skilled senior engineers and industry veterans are likely to continue thriving. But do you think there will still be much room for entry level professionals? As a high school junior who is passionate about AI and anything to do with computers, I'm afraid that by the time I complete college in about 5 years, there may no longer be plentiful opportunities to enter the industry, especially with the recent layoffs in big tech, including at Google. Man, okay, that's such a great question. Um, and I'm really glad you asked it. I think it's a good one to close. We have a youth advisor group, and I was just talking to some college students, and they're learning AI. And I think the where we are with technology is it doesn't matter where you are today or what kind of resources you have access to. The internet has created an immense amount of free information and the ability for you to pick up and learn. And I'm around very talented engineers and people at Google all day long, and I'll tell you, everybody's learning, um, and it's not going to stop. And every time we see new technology, it actually has never been a case where it has less work. It's always created more work. And I think because what happens is our expectations of the world just increases. Think about like email, you or text messages, your expectations of immediacy, Netflix, your expectations of having great content at your fingertips, remembering where you left off from phone to TV to hotel room. I mean, the expectations are immense and they will continue to increase. And so, what will happen is as you go to college and you find a new job, the things that you'll have to do in 5 years will be much more complex than what you're building today, right? And so, how will you be prepared for that kind of complexity is if you start building it now. When I first started with the internet, and I was like you, I was really passionate about technology. I was building basic web pages, just content laid out. They weren't very pretty, but they were very basic, and everybody had basic skills. Now, web pages are dynamically generated, and you know where things are now. It's so much more complex now. And I have a job. Plenty of anybody who is interested in the internet, went through this whole time period, when I was in high school now, they have a job. And I think there's nowhere I could see in this world where there won't be that kind of demand for skill to be able to innovate and build things. And the only way you can be able to be ready for that kind of complexity is if you kind of learn some of those building blocks right now. So I think that's the best way to think about it. Any kind of tech layoffs. I mean, there's always a cycle in any business, any economy. But what will happen is you will see new businesses, new exciting. Like I said, like the future of the next big AI tech company is not known. Nobody knows what will happen. And so there will be something that we have never thought about before. We never thought about Uber coming to be. Nobody ever thought of DoorDash or Netflix, or TikTok recently, right? And so these are all things that will happen as a result. And so just be on the lookout, be prepared, keep learning. That's the best way. So I'm going to end with one video and one thing to share with you as we close. And this is kind of where we see the future of AI with AI.
Okay, let's do some tests. Tell me when you see something that makes sound.
I see a speaker, which makes sound.
What is that part of the speaker called?
That is the tweeter. It produces high-frequency sounds.
Give me a creative alliteration about these.
Creative crayons color cheerfully. They certainly craft colorful creations.
What does that part of the code do?
This code defines encryption and decryption functions. It seems to use AESCBC encryption to encode and decode data based on a key and an initialization vector, IV.
That's right. What neighborhood do you think I'm in?
This appears to be the King's Cross area of London. It is known for its railway station and transportation connections.
Do you remember where you saw my glasses?
Yes, I do. Your glasses were on the desk near a red apple.
What can I add here to make this system faster?
Adding a cache between the server and database could improve speed.
What does this remind you of?
Schrodinger's cat.
All right, give me a band name for this duo.
Golden Stripes.
Nice. Thanks, Gemini.
All right. Maybe someday we'll all be wearing those kind of glasses and having our own Gemini or AI assistant. Thank you all for joining this webinar. I hope you all took away some things and you see the opportunities ahead of AI, and hopefully less worried about it than you were coming in, or maybe more excited about it than you were coming in. I will just end with one more thing. I think the next big thing in AI could be you. And so with that, good luck. Stay curious, work on your next AI project, keep on learning. And I'll be looking for one of you in the headlines. And if you do, please let me know if I was able to help you a little bit in your career. Thank you, and have a good night.
Thank you, everyone.